Well, welcome back to Men's Day Out, the sexist organization which is spreading misogynist narratives. That's not what we are saying. This is the title given to us in a recent report which has been published by UN Women. And sharing with us the title is Men Welfare Trust. So I welcome Amit Lakhani, who is heading the NGO based out of Delhi. Hi Amit, thanks for joining.
Hi Anas, thank you. Thanks for having me here.
So let me begin putting it this way, that we self-proclaim activists. We didn't have anything better to do on a Saturday evening today, so we thought we will take up this chat. And so this report has been, it came to light yesterday, and it has used terms like misandry, husband burning, men's rights, domestic violence on men. All these have been categorized as misogyny. So what are your first thoughts on this?
Anas, to begin with, I would say that UN Women, the organization which has come out with this report, is, you can call them as mother of all the feminists. And for ages, they have been talking about a crime against women. They have been talking about domestic violence against women. They have been talking about bride burning in India and all these issues. And they call it women's rights issues, right? So when the gender changes and we talk about the same issues which men are facing, when we talk about the husband burning cases, when we talk about male suicides, or when we talk about domestic violence on men, then they call it misogyny. So this actually, this entire thing is actually exposed them in, ways more than one. Because firstly, talking about rights of anybody, be it men or women, you can't, you cannot categorize it as, crime or, so what they're basically trying to say is that crime has a gender. What they're basically trying to say is that woman can only be a victim, she can never be a perpetrator, and men can always be the perpetrator, and men cannot have these same issues, and they cannot be the victim. So this is their idea of equality, this is their idea of gender equality, and I would say that they have been thriving upon this idea that they want to tell the people that equality is about women getting more laws for them, women getting more privileges, and men are always on the wrong side of the law.
Somehow I always experience this, that whenever you use the word or the term women's rights, it's considered to be progressive. But the minute you use the term men's rights, which is all fair when you talk about gender equality, it's immediately labeled as regressive, patriarchal, and that is a kind of mindset which has been created in society, that you cannot talk anything about men.
Right. Yeah, absolutely, Arnaz. But if we talk about United Nations in specific, the UDHR, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, if I go to specific articles, in Article 7, they talk about equality before law for everybody. That is the term that they use. And in Article 8, they talk about remedies against any kind of discrimination for men and women both. So these specific organization which came up with UDHR, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which India is also signatory to. What is all this about then? If in the article itself you talk about men and women, in the articles you're talking about remedies for all, but when it comes to actually working on the ground, you have so much of hate against men. This actually tells that all these feminists, their idea of equality is about hating men and branding anything which is about men as misogyny.
Right. Now, coming to this particular article which they have targeted, and this was an article published on Men's Day Out, and it was an application put in Delhi High Court by Men Welfare Trust, during the lockdown period, where you requested to suspend maintenance for a period of 3 months on account of a lot of men losing their jobs. There was no certainty about the future of what is going to happen, especially in the month of March, April, and May. So this is one article which they have picked up and particularly targeted and categorized as misogynist. I wanted to start from a little beginning, Amit, because there's a lot of talk about men facing more domestic violence, or if not more, equal amount of domestic violence during lockdown. And you as an organization were getting a lot of calls with regards to this. So give me a background and then come to how did you file the application in Delhi High Court?
So, Arnaz, nobody can deny the fact that this the COVID-19, the pandemic has actually affected everybody on this earth. The entire world was going through a very difficult time, and everybody saw that there were loss of jobs. The unemployment was on the all-time high, and there were salary cuts and all sorts of there was a global slowdown in the economy, and men were the one who were facing it in a very bad way. We on our helpline, Arnaz, we got number of calls. As soon as the lockdown started, these calls started coming in where men were they were in their homes, and they were also doing work, whatever work from home they were doing, or they were out of jobs. Whoever was a businessman. So there were all sorts of calls coming in wherein they were subjected to domestic violence, whether it was verbal abuse, whether it was physical abuse, or it was emotional, economical, or sexual abuse. And at a time when there was no remedy at all to these men, we thought that we being a responsible organization working for the cause of men, if we do not take up these issues and we do not do anything, then nobody else would do it, because there is no representation from the side of the government as far as the men's issues are concerned. So that is when, Arnaz, we started this campaign and about domestic violence on men, and it probably went viral, and a lot of people on the social media started talking about it. We had got horrific calls from men. I'll give you a couple of examples. Like there was a guy who was in somewhere in south. I think he was in Bangalore, and this guy saw his wife in adulterous chat. He saw history of chat of his wife with sexually explicit material and adultery and all that, and he confronted this with his wife, and that is when she called up the police. And in the middle of the pandemic, where there was no remedy, you could not even go anywhere, and his parents were in Hyderabad, so there was no way that he could go to Hyderabad. This man was thrown out of this house with no remedies at all. So that is the kind of violence that men were facing through. And there was another case wherein a guy in Ghaziabad, he was beaten black and blue, and he was bleeding, and there was no medical help for this man, and he was literally thrown out of his house amid this lockdown. And that is when he called us, and one of our volunteers, he went there and he kind of rescued him and took him to a safe place. While there are no shelter homes for men for such men domestic violence kind of shelter homes on the government side, but some volunteer helped him, and we kind of were able to rescue that man. So we started talking about these stories. We started talking about and then later on we saw that there were news coming in where there were husband murders also, and wives and the in-laws, they kind of conspired murders of husband, and there was some news in some social media and some tabloids which we took up. So,
I'll interrupt you over here. In fact, Azamgarh police from Uttar Pradesh, they went on record to state that there were many husband murders happening due to adultery during the lockdown period. This is an official statement from a state police. So I do wanted to, I did.
And there were many such reports, and there were many such reports, and there were men who were actually very uncomfortable, and they were threatened, and they were kind of living in misery amid this lockdown, and they had no rescue. So we, as men's rights organization, we started talking about it. We started this campaign, and we started these hashtags because this report specifically talks about hashtags like husband murder, hashtags like domestic violence against men, specifically in India. So we were the people who were talking about it, and now they are calling this as misogyny. So what I understand is that if you talk about suffering of men, it is misogyny. If you talk about domestic violence on men or crime against men, it is misogyny. But the same thing, if that happens with a woman, they call it women's rights issues. So this actually exposes them, and this talks about the bigotry, the double standard, and the hypocrisy on which these feminist organizations are actually thriving upon.
Right. And coming back to this application which you submitted to the Delhi High Court, can you elaborate what was it? What was the response from the High Court?
Yeah. So, like I said, there were a lot of men who were calling us up. So we also observed that a lot of them have actually lost their jobs, and a lot of them are on the verge of losing their jobs, and there are salary cuts which are going on, and there were a lot of amid all of this, lockdown situation and the economy going down, there were a lot of schemes which were being announced by the government for various sectors. But there was a section of men who were actually, ordered maintenance to their wives by various courts across the country. So these men were also going through the similar situation, but nobody was actually ready to talk about these men and how would they, pay up their maintenance. So this was a major change in circumstances for these men who were paying maintenance, and the High Court have all the jurisdictions and power to act upon the situation. So that is when we actually made a kind of a open letter, and a petition was sent to the High Court in the form of a letter to the Delhi High Court, where we demanded, we actually prayed to the court that in this situation where there was a 3-month scheme which was being given by the government and everybody else. So this being considered as a change in circumstances, there should be some relief given to these men who were actually giving their maintenances ordered by various courts in the country. So it has a proper logic, and we had mentioned the specific articles and the specific IPCs and CRPC sections where this was possible. So probably this logical findings and these logical prayers and expectations from the judiciary and the judicial activism that we actually started did not go very well with the feminist organization, and that is the reason probably they picked this up, and from there on we saw a lot of surge in the anti-men kind of campaigns from these organizations, and we saw a lot of social media campaigns talking about crime by men, crime against women, as if the crime is only against women and it cannot happen against men.
In fact, there was also a narrative which was being driven constantly that women were the bigger sufferers of COVID. I don't know how, when the world is going through such a horrific pandemic, you're also, you're trying to make a gender divide. As you rightly said, men have suffered equally, lost their jobs, don't know where the future stands for them. But somewhere these organizations were again trying to make it into a gender debate by saying women were bigger sufferers, through the whole situation. And also, while we were talking about this Delhi High Court petition, there was a similar petition even in the Bombay Family Court, where a lot of men were pleading, to give them some kind of relief. And in fact, there was a statement from one of the lawyers who said that this was yet another opportunity by men to harass women. So, I mean, these are the kind of statements which completely shock you, because nobody really wants to understand what men go through. Everything is about women and their rights.
Arnaz, what has actually fundamentally gone wrong with the women's rights movement is that they believe that more you bash men, more you ridicule them, the more lower you stoop down in calling them misogynist and all that, the more rewards you get from the feminist organization in the form of funds and all that. So everybody who associate themselves as feminists or somewhere associated with these organizations, you will see that this is very common that these rhetorics which are actually anti-men, which come out every now and then. So this is their idea of equality, that you bash men and you always tell the world that woman needs specific laws, specific attention, specific privileges, and because men are the ones who are always trying to suppress them, and that is the kind of narrative they always thrive upon, and that the narrative they want people to believe, and they put all their efforts into it.
Right. Amit, now whatever work I do through my portal, by the virtue of being virtual, is there for everybody to see. But you guys do a lot of work on ground, which naturally, you can't document everything. You can't shoot a video and put it out there. So I want you to tell in brief, what exactly does Men Welfare Trust do? Today, if a man or his family are under distress, how can they get in touch with you, and how would you guys help them outside the ambit of the legal system?
Anaz, Men Welfare Trust is basically a NGO based out of Delhi, and we are a self-funded, volunteer-based organization, which is run by very enthusiastic and passionate people who come from all walks of life. And Men Welfare Trust is also a part of a conglomerate of NGOs called Save Indian Family Movement, which is about 40 plus NGOs working for the cause of men, working against the misuse of law and in the field of male suicides. And Men Welfare Trust is part of it. We are running a all India helpline for men in distress. The number is 888-498-498, wherein we get about 5,000 to 6,000 calls each month from across India, and also from overseas, because there are a lot of men who were married in India. They moved to various other countries, and they are facing the misuse of law, and they are facing false cases out of failed marriages, or false rape cases or false sexual harassment cases. So these people who are at the hands of misuse of law, they call us on the helpline, and we have about 100 volunteers from across India who are running these helpline, who pick up the call, and they kind of give them the initial counseling, the initial first aid that we call. And then they are after they kind of brief them on a little bit of the legal side, that what are their legal rights, how do they go about fighting these cases if at all there is a false case on them. Then there are weekly support group meetings that we organize, and which are organized at about 30 different locations across India. Like all major cities are covered, including Delhi, Kolkata, Mumbai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Lucknow, Kanpur. So most of the cities have all these SIF meetings, wherein these people they can come there, physically meet the advisors, the counselors, and talk about their cases, talk about their situations. We try to help them without judging them, because the entire society judges a man when he's accused, or even if he's accused of a false, whether it is a false sexual harassment case, or a false rape case, or a false molestation case, or a false dowry harassment case. The moment there's an allegation on a man, the entire world looks at him as if he's a criminal. So he carries a criminal tag till the time, even after he sometimes is acquitted from the court. So there is a kind of a social a stigma which is attached to all of this. So when these men come to us, we try to psychologically heal them. We hear them out. Then we tell them, and a lot of them are announced at a situation where they are at the verge of committing suicide, getting into a deep depression. So we do this. We talk to them. We give them a helping hand, and it becomes, and for most of them, it becomes like a second family where they can pick up the phone and look up to somebody, some volunteer to talk to, even in the middle of the night. And it has actually helped a lot of people to come out of the situation and live a life with dignity. And we have, I agree that there is a long way to go, but I think we've been able to make a lot of difference in the last few years without any government support, without any external funding, and completely on our own, and deriving with our own passions and with our own self-help. And that is what Men Welfare Trust and all these associate NGOs have been doing for last over 15 years now. And people can call us. There are websites. We have menwelfare.in. We have saveindianfamily.in. We have our helpline, as I said, 888-2498-498. And there are various other NGOs who have their own websites through which people can know about us. They can call us and they can get help absolutely free of cost. We don't charge a penny from all these victims who call us and seek any kind of help.
Right. No, I personally, I can vouch for the Amit, because somewhere I have become a medium for a lot of people approaching me for advice. And naturally, that is not something what I do. So I most of the times connect them to the SIF helpline. And the feedback that I get is generally the one-liner statement is, it really helped. So whether it helps them in winning the battle or not, but I think that comfort zone of talking to somebody who gives them an assurance that things can work out, it's not the end of life, a false case is a phase in your life. I think that really is very comforting. And lastly,
these people who are running the helpline, who are running all these campaigns, whether they are taking the calls from the victims, or they are doing social media campaigns, or they are running the support group meetings. Although the support group meetings are happening virtually these days because of the lockdown, all these men were in a situation where they came to us as victims, and somewhere they felt that they got some help here which nobody else could offer to them. And they felt that now it is time to give back to the movement, to give back to the society, and that's the reason, because they despite of having their own careers, they being in their own jobs, they spare time, and they do this without any without any salaries or without any self-interest to say.
Right. And before we end, Amit, just want you to give one word of advice to anybody who gets, trapped in a false case. What is it that you would like to tell them, to be calm, not get into, any kind of addiction, not get into depression? Give us one word of advice on that.
Anas, anybody who's going through such a situation, I would say that find somebody, first of all, find a friend, find a well-wisher, or call us. So first of all, you need to come out of the closets and start talking about what you're going through. That is the first step, because what generally happens is that men shy away. They think that, and it also happens because all through their lives, all through their upbringing, they have seen that men have been, categorized as somebody who will never cry, who will never have a problem. And we often see that when a man comes out and says something about his suffering, they are often laughed at, and people do not take it seriously, or he's made fun of, and that's the reason men generally don't come out and keep suffering. and that affects their mental well-being, and that affects their the lives, their careers, and their entire well-being. So I would say that find somebody who you can share your apathy with, find somebody who you can talk to, or you can call us. And definitely, like you said, this is not the end of the world. There is a a long way to go. It's a beautiful life that you need to cherish. If something in your life is not actually worked out, that is not the end of the world. And to the people who are crusaders, who are men's rights activists, I believe these are the people who have actually understood the cause, who have actually seen that the other side of gender equality or gender inequality, to be specific. And I would tell them that come what may, whatever the world says, you have this belief in your mind, in your heart, that whatever you're doing is the just cause. Whatever cause you're fighting for is a just cause. And in the times to come, whether 20 years, 30 years, or 40 years down the line, if ever there is a true sense of gender equality, or if ever there is going to be history written in for the gender justice, you would be part of that history.
Absolutely. No, it's wonderful having this message from you. And as Amit rightly said, please do not take the extreme step. There is a family, there are your parents who are there for you, who love you. And we have witnessed so many parents going through hell after losing their sons. So please do not take that step. We are all here to speak to you. And suggestions, feedback is always welcome for both of us, for my portal or Amit's NGO, to only help us do better in whatever we are doing. So on that note, I thank you, Amit, for joining us, and do keep coming and sharing.
Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, we'd like to catch you with more experiences coming from men. So we'll keep in touch.
Definitely.
Thanks. Bye-bye.